Hi everyone, my name's Emma Winter. I'm the Retention and Wellbeing Lead for Oxy's NHS. I'm joined here today by Kathryn.
Hi, I'm Kathryn Guest and I'm the Directorate Lead for Adult Learning Disabilities.
And welcome to our latest Your Wellbeing Matters podcast. So today we're basing ourselves at Queen Mary's in the lovely courtyard. It's a very nice day. And really today is going to be talking about nutrition and hydration. So we really want to focus on how we can support our staff with nutrition, hydration, healthy eating and things like that. So we always talk about, eating well, making sure we get physical exercise, 5 a day, calorie counting, all these things are always being talked about. And we all want to, be as healthy as we can be, especially in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So what we were going to do, Kathryn, is ask you a series of questions in terms of some of the current topics that are going on at the moment that people are talking about in terms of healthy diets and how to sustain that. Yeah. So I think we'll kick off with one of the first things is the weight loss injection. So that's something that's currently being talked about quite a lot. It's in the media quite a lot. So just wanted to sort of ask, first of all, what that is, what that weight loss injection is, and kind of the benefits and things around that.
Yeah, so the new weight loss drug that's just come out now, it's called Mounjaro. You may have heard about it. It's a weekly injection, and basically you inject hormones into your body, and that can affect your appetite, so you're not going to eat as much, and it can also help regulate blood glucose levels, certainly for those people who have type 2 diabetes. It was designed for people with a BMI over 30, just to help them to lose the weight. And
I know a few people that are on it and things, but are there any sort of common side effects and things like that in terms of, the benefits and next to that?
Yeah, and I think with any medication that you do take, there are always side effects, and you have to balance those out with the benefits of taking the injection. Some of the side effects can be fatigue, constipation, nausea, sometimes vomiting, headaches, dizziness, all those things. So what we find, it's very important that we follow a healthy, balanced diet to try and reduce these side effects.
So it's kind of, the injections there as part of your lifestyle changes as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to note that the weight loss drug can help very much, but it's also important to have those lifestyle interventions following a healthy, balanced diet, along with exercise, stress management, and just generally looking after yourself.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And one of the other topics I'm hearing a lot about is how we sort of introduce fibre into diets and things like that. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Fibre is a very important thing in our diet, and a general adult will need about 30 grams a day.
Okay.
So where we get those from are from our fruits and vegetables. So those are called what we call soluble fibre, and these are things that digest. Mm-hmm. So those can help with regular bowel movements. Yeah. Also, we have something called insoluble fibre that we find in the wheat, the bran, all those grains, wholemeal breads, wholemeal pasta, and those can give us a little bit of roughage as well to keep our bowels healthy. So it's good to have a balance of both. Mm-hmm. What we can find, if somebody has constipation, tend to focus more on the soluble fibre, your fruits and vegetables, and probably take down that little bit of insoluble fibre, because those are going to bulk you up. Mm-hmm. And also, if someone's suffering from loose stools, having a little bit more of the insoluble fibre to give you that bulk. So it's about managing it healthily in a well-balanced way.
And I suppose, do you think a good way to track that would be to sort of write down, a bit of a food diary in terms of what you're sort of intaking, and then to see what might be triggering any sort of issues and things like that, and seeing then, okay, well, this is what I'm currently doing, how do I introduce more fibre and things like that.
Yeah, that would be a good tool to use. We call it a food and symptom diary.
Okay.
So if you are struggling with any symptoms, also pain, distension, bloating, we tend to find certain foods can cause those, mainly onions, garlic.
Mm-hmm.
We can get a lot of pain and distension with those. So if you are suffering from anything, definitely to make a food diary, and then you can sort of highlight where these issues are coming from.
Okay.
I think it's also important to note is you do need to get your water and hydration.
Especially
and
on
your
hot days like
fluids in.
today.
Well, yeah, and you do need a little bit more when you're hot and
Yeah.
sweaty, of course. So, yeah, and don't forget we can get water in from soups,
Yeah.
yogurts, custards, those type of things, and fruit and veg as well. They do have a high water content.
Yeah.
So there are other things. Your teas and coffees can also count. So it's not just pure water
Yeah.
that you need to focus on.
And I think that just you mentioning tea and coffee there, that's sort of taken me into the sort of sugar topic. So, you know, there's lots in the media again around how we reduce our sugar intake and what are good sugars and the hidden sugars and sweet things and things like that.
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand a little bit about sugars, and we have different sources, and all sugars that we eat we break down into what we call glucose. Now that is important for us, gives us our energy, it feeds our cells, so it is important that we have some sugars in our diet. But of course we need to go for the healthy ones as well. So we have what we call starchy carbohydrates. So those are your bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, your chapatis, your naan breads, all these things. Those are your starchy sugars. We have natural sugars that we get in our fruits, and we also have a little bit of sugar in our milk as well.
Yeah.
And when we talk about sugars, we tend to focus on what people think refined sugars. So those are like your normal table sugars that we find added into chocolate, cakes, biscuits, those kind of things. And those are ones that we really need to keep away from or try and reduce a little bit in our diet.
Yeah. I think if someone asked me and they said, you know, are you someone that has a lot of sugar? I'll go, no, because, you know, I don't take sugar in my tea, I don't put it on cereal and things like that. But actually, if I looked into and read some labels and things in terms of what are the sugars in what I'm actually eating, I probably could work a bit harder in reducing my sugar intake and things, because obviously that would have impact on different things, you know, teeth and things we've talked about.
Yes, definitely. And I think, like you say, the hidden sugars can be found in a lot of sauces that you don't tend to associate with sugar. So it is good to have a read of the labels, and it should say sugar content on it. It will have carbohydrate of which sugars, so it will have a little sub-paragraph underneath to say which are the pure sugars.
Yeah.
So that would be something you could look for to find.
Yeah, and I mean, my children like ketchup, and I always think, okay, just a little bit, because I just know that there is, you know, sugars and things like that. And I know now, you know, you see a range of things on the shelves, don't you, in terms of, you know, reduce salt, reduce sugars, and zero this and things. So I do think we're getting better, but it's about making the right choices, I think, sometimes as well, isn't it?
It is, and like you say, you can tackle it in two ways. You can go for your low sugar versions, and there are a low sugar tomato sauce.
Yes,
there are those, or reducing the amount that you have. That's a good way to reduce it, and also filling it with the natural sugars, like I say, maybe adding fruits into the diet. Honey is also a natural sugar, but it is very high in calories as well, so we need to be very careful that we only have a little bit in there.
So Oxley's have recently been talking about looking after your heart and heart health. In the past, we've run sort of wellbeing campaigns with staff in terms of, you know, your heart, how to look after it. So just wanted to hear sort of your take on that as well.
Yeah, well, like we say, eating a healthy, balanced diet will almost certainly help with heart health. Keeping a regular weight, doing your exercise as well, and reducing that stress. Stress can be a big impact on heart health. But from a dietary perspective, looking at the different fats that we have. So we have what we call saturated fat, and we'll get those from fats that are hard at room temperature. So you've got like your butter, your hard cheese, lard. We used to have lard.
Yeah, I remember lard. Wow.
Yeah, your ghee can be quite high.
Yes.
So all those things is a good way to sort of identify what your saturated fats are.
Yeah.
And we have monounsaturates and polyunsaturates that we tend to go for. And your omega-3 is a big one for heart health. Your omega-3s can be found in mainly fish, your oily fish. So those are things like mackerel, salmon, trout. And your omega-3s can reduce inflammation. So when we get some damage on our blood vessels, we're having those omega-3s, it can reduce that inflammation.
Okay.
So that can help keep your blood vessels healthy as well as your heart.
And what, in terms of vegetarians, how would they supplement that omega-3?
Yeah, I mean, you could use a supplementation that you can get, a vegan one, or there are natural sources as well, like your walnuts, your flax seeds, those kind of things have the omega-3s in them.
Okay, and if, staff members wanted to, had any concerns with it in terms of checking their heart health, is that just going for regular checks in terms of blood pressure, or is there anything further they could do?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to the fats, like we've said, we can get blood test results for what we call a lipid profile. So that will look at the total cholesterol in your blood.
Yep.
We have what we call low density lipoprotein, high density, triglycerides, and we have all markers for these, what are healthy ranges.
Yeah.
So if we can see some are raised a little bit, we can tweak the diet to take those back down, and we find making dietary changes can have a good impact on those. With respect to your blood pressure, we're looking at the salt content.
Yep.
And your salt regulates as well with your fluid balance, and that can affect your heart.
Yeah.
Can put more pressure on the heart to beat harder. So going for taking salt out, not adding it to your food, and looking at the salt content, and you'll find a lot of processed foods maybe high in salt. Also high in sugars as well. So it's just reading those labels and being more aware.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking, it sounds like this is more, we need to educate ourselves more on everything we've talked about, the Manjaro injections, the heart health, the fibre. I think we just take for granted, and when we're in our busy working environments, you do just go down to the local shop or the cafe and you grab that sandwich and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you're hungry and your appetite's there, or you're thirsty, and some of us do bring in things from home as well, which is great. But I think sometimes it is really just taking that time to acknowledge, okay, what it actually is I'm eating. As well, and just checking those labels and things and educating yourself.
Yes, definitely. And I think there are other little things that you can do. Like you say, today's way of life is quite fast-paced, and if you haven't got time, you could always buy food separately. So you could buy a bread roll or a wrap. You could buy some chicken pieces, mix salad, and make your own up so you know more what's going into it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. One of the other things we've been talking about is multicultural nutrition and what that means, and how Oxys want to support that for our staff members as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important that we do incorporate these into our dietary care plans. And there are different Eat Well guides, like we've talked about, the Healthy Eating Guide. It shows different proportions of what food we should be eating. So what we call our macronutrients, which is our proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and also those micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals. And we do have now, if we go on the Food Standards Agency website, there are different Eat Well guides for different cultural groups.
Yes, I saw those, and we're going to be sharing those as well, because
those are fabulous.
I think we need to do a little bit more in terms of building up resources for different Eat Well guides and things like that, so we'll certainly be sharing those.
Yes, and that's a really good resource. There's Polish, Bengali, Asian, Caribbean. There's lots of different ones there, and within our department, as well as dietitians, we have some information leaflets that we have for our patients that focus on the specific food groups, because it's got to be relevant to them.
Yeah, that's right.
And something that they can take away and implement the changes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. One of the other things I was going to talk about was around plant-based food. So there's lots, and Oxy's are obviously supporting a green plan. We're doing lots in terms of the environment and sustainability, but also introducing more plant-based foods into our diet. So it was really sort of asking your expertise on, what does that mean? I think some people make assumptions around vegan diets as well and things like that. So I just wanted to sort of get a bit more understanding on that.
Yeah, and I think a plant-based diet basically focuses on food in the whole form. And I think some of the assumptions that people make is that it's just a vegan diet, when it's not.
Yeah.
It is mainly a whole food diet, so you're eating things that have little processing. So you can have meat eaters on it, you can have what are called pescatarians who have the fish, lacto-vegetarians, people who have dairy or just have eggs. So it's a whole range. And having more of these plant-based foods in our diet, we know the more different varieties we have, the better our gut microbiome. That is something that we have in our intestines that help with our gut function, the better it is. So getting a really good array of those plant-based foods in there. So some of the guidelines are, we try to get about 30 different plant-based foods in. So that's
more than you think, isn't it?
It is, and the more different variety, the different colours, the different textures, the better it is, because they all have different nutrients in there.
Someone was saying to me that they avoid ugly food, and I was like, no, you mustn't, because that's actually sometimes that's the raw produce, isn't it? And it's there.
And it's in the best form. Personally, myself, I think that's a good way to go. I like to eat foods that's more in the natural form, and that can, like I say, it can include fish, it can include meat and animal products, your eggs.
I just as we're talking, I just think I just need, again, it's taking stock and just educating yourself and raising awareness. I mean, I think I'm really good because I'm growing some herbs on my windowsill at the moment, and I absolutely love them. Fresh basil, parsley, it's great. And I think I'm really good doing that, but actually there's a lot more I could do in terms of, herb growing, and I know Oxy's are looking at doing lots more of that in terms of green spaces around growing things here, but I know there's more I could do in terms of plant-based foods, and there is a checklist, isn't there? I think it's the 30 based one, which is really good to just have that there. I know some of our teams have also done it as a bit of a challenge as well, to see what they can tick off of the list. As well.
But it's great that you're growing your own herbs. That's fabulous.
But I should just probably do a bit more. But it's just time, isn't it? I think that's one of the things we mentioned earlier. It's just finding the time to make sure that we stop and really think about what we're eating and what we're drinking and things like that.
And putting those in your foods, making a bolognese, you can put your basil in.
I do. That's exactly what I do.
Fabulous.
I'm getting hungry now.
It's cheap as well. It's a cheaper option
exactly.
as well.
And my windowsill's really sunny, so they're just lovely. They just sit there really nicely. So
fabulous.
The only other thing I was going to mention was around vitamin D and calcium, sort of bone health, and what else. I suppose the other side of it is, all of these things we're talking about. Where can staff go to find more information or get further support on this?
And I can give some websites at the end and recommend some that are really good. There's probably about 5 that I can say to direct anyone to for more information. But certainly with our vitamin D and calcium, they work very closely together. And your vitamin D, you probably need about 10 micrograms a day.
Yeah.
So if you don't get that, if a lot of people are inside, people from different ethnic groups with a darker skin, they may not get enough sunlight. Sunlight is a great form of vitamin D. So it's important that we do supplement where we need to. But we also need to be aware of maximum limits, because you can get toxicity.
Yes.
So if you are supplementing and you buy any vitamins over the counter, maximum would be about 4,000 international units.
Okay.
The recommended is 400, so you can see how much more.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be the absolute maximum.
Okay.
Food sources of vitamin D would be, again, your oily fish, a lot in eggs, but we generally get it from our sunlight.
Yes.
So
especially at the moment.
yes, top up on your vitamin D, but obviously make sure you get your sunscreen on as well, and follow the recommended guidelines.
Yeah.
But and like I say, that works very closely with calcium.
Yes.
So your vitamin D helps you absorb your calcium.
Right, okay.
So if you don't have enough vitamin D, or you're deficient, you won't be absorbing your calcium. Now, your calcium is there. We get it from a lot of dairy sources, in particular milk. That's got a very large source of calcium. And those make our bones strong and healthy, our teeth as well, nails, all those things. And it can also help with muscle function. And of course our heart as well, like we talked about, heart health. Your heart is a muscle, and it can help with good muscle function with the heart as well. So these are very important sources. As you mentioned before, with vegetarians or vegans, going for your soya, oat-based, but ensuring that they've supplemented with calcium as well. It's very important that we have that. So.
Well, that's a lot of information, and I don't know about anyone else, I've certainly learned a lot, and I just feel that it really is about taking the time to understand, what your diet is, what's sustainable, where do you need to reduce, where do you need to increase what you're taking, and things to have that well-balanced diet.
Definitely. And I think some of the problems that we find is there is a lot of information out there. And some people don't know where to go. So I think some of the good websites, so we have the British Heart Foundation, we have the British Nutrition Foundation as well, and also for those Eat Well guys for English and all of the cultural groups, it's on the Food Standards Agency. So those are 5 really good websites that I would direct anyone to.
I actually visited a few of those this week, and a lot of them have some really good fact sheets and things like that you might want to display in your staff areas and things. And you just talking about it as well, all of this sort of things, we educate our children at school about all of this, but I feel like maybe in the workplace we need to carry that on and make sure that's still happening even as adults.
Absolutely.
So Oxys want to be doing more wellbeing weeks and focusing on pretty much all the topics we've been talking about, and just sort of signposting people to the relevant websites, like you say, the fact sheets, there's challenges and things that you can do. So I think that's really good. We've learned a real lot. But thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
And thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.